So when I was in the Raiders, one of the things that I imagined, fantasized a lot was about writing something for kids, because I was hired to be in the Raiders to relate to the youngest of their fans. So this idea of writing something for children, maybe without a scary element. I'm thinking of books at first, or little stories. But anyway, as time went by, about 1970, I come back to the Northwest, and I had done a couple solo records with Dunhill Records. Nothing really happened. I worked for the railroad for a year. One point I sang in churches, for about 2.5 years, kind of on a very kind of universal kind of level. And at one point, I got back into rock and roll. There was a guy named Ned Neltner that had a group called Junior Cadillac up here. And he had kind of a back to the 60s, let's put these groups back together. So Don the Good Times got back together for this one concert. The Sonics, the Wailers, the Viceroys, Marilyn the Turnabouts, and I heard Andy Paripa playing Louie or Lucille, and I went, God, that just sounds fun. So we started a group called Sweet Talkin' Joe, 72. Played for a couple years. Then I got a little bit too much rock and roll, or, not enough positive energy, and I left. Anyway, kind of coming back around in time, in 65, Don the Good Times, we had our pictures taken by a lady named Jeannie Delaccio, who was taking pictures. She had first taken pictures of the Wailers, and then she took pictures of Down the Good Times, every group probably in the Northwest, around Seattle, she took pictures of. And she became famous in her own right. When I first met her, she was like my second mom. I mean, it was just kind of love at first sight. Her husband was a administrator in Tacoma Public Schools. This was 65. In 1980, Carl Delaccio called me and said, Jim, would you like to work with some gifted kids in schools? And I went, sure, that'd be great. And so I came to Tacoma Public Schools, did a few days, 3 or 4 days. He says, let's do something with you with our high school kids. So it was called Contemporary Music Workshop. I call it lightly high school rock and roll choirs. Went into each high school, had maybe 17 kids that would audition for me, and we'd meet kind of an enrichment session once a week. At the end of the year, we got to record some of the songs we were playing with, and we also got to present a concert. But it got me into education, kind of through the back door. And the second year, my administrator retired. But before he retired, he got the Tacoma News Tribune to do an article on me. They called me the Pied Piper of School Town. By this time, I was also working with assemblies with little kids, which I really loved, which was kind of like, this is what I want to do. I want to make music with young minds, fresh imaginations. And so somebody saw this article, principal called me up the next day, maybe you're the guy we're looking for. Could you write a song that would help us learn to get along? We have a school out here in Spanaway or whatever, and they're all enlisted Air Forcemen's kids. They'd rather hit each other than say hello. Could you write a song that would help us learn to get along? I said, I'd love to do that, and maybe come back and conduct a workshop with our kids and our teachers. I said, I'd love it. So I wrote a song called Rainbow Planet. We all ride the same spaceship. Buckminster Fuller's idea of Spaceship Earth. So kids, what do we make friends with? Why? Because we have things in common. What do we have in common? Love of music, our planet, and to call it an Earth, to call it a spaceship was kind of cool. And a rainbow planet because diversity, all the colors, coming together, becoming friends. So join hands, everybody join hands. Join hands. Countdown. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Snap it. Now steering that spaceship. Come on, spaceship, steering that spaceship.
We all ride the same spaceship.
Can you steer that like that?
We all ride the same spaceship.
Traveling
through our universe.
Sunshine.
We all share the same sunshine. We can live together just a matter of time.
Snapping.
We can learn to get along.
Microphones.
should wait and see. We can learn to live peacefully.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Peaceful.
So I did this song, did this workshop, had a few songs. I taught them Splish Splash, and then we came up with accents. Well, anyway, I was there for almost a month, and then it became, that school told other schools, and pretty soon it became my job. And that was 1981. By 83, I'd recorded the first album, won a Parents' Choice Award, but it was still local, going to schools, Seattle, Tacoma, Olympia, Bremerton. And then one school finds out about me in Spokane, so I'm flown to Spokane. I went, wow, I'm flying to a school. They had me there for a week, a different school every day.
Friendship train has come to town. The friendship train has come to town. Woo-hoo. Way up there. All aboard. All aboard. Friendship train has come to town. Put on a smile and drop that frown. Can you grab 2 friends? 2 friends.
Grab a friend and climb on board while the engineer blows happy forward.
Everyone is free to take their ride. Thanks, have a friend by their side. This train will stop at the rainbow's end. You got it.
For all those aboard who have brought a friend. For all those aboard who have brought a friend.
Friendship train has come to town. Friendship train has come to town.
One of those teachers later, a year or so later, gets me to perform at a national teachers conference in Santa Cruz. And the next year I'm going to New Hampshire, to Texas, California. So then I was kind of a national guy. I think I'd done 2 or 3 albums by that time. 1990, I get invited to come to Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. And they write a letter. They say, would you ever consider coming this far? I said, let me think about it. Okay, I'd love that. And that opened up this whole international schools. So now I think I've gone to like 22 countries, 5 continents. And it's been an amazing way to see the world, to take a little bit of America to them and to bring back some of their culture to America.
Jim Valley is a natural with children. He brings to them the message that, hey, you can be creative, you can do things, you can take your own good ideas, set them to music. There are good things that one is capable of doing. Anyone can achieve anything. It's a powerful message.
Basically, I'm doing movement and music that comes from kids, but it keeps them totally involved because it's kind of music from their heart. And I add some music to it, usually with them. So it kind of has that kid vibe. I'm a very fortunate, lucky guy that I've got to see a lot of the world, but basically I get to create some very imaginative, beautiful kids.
So imagine we're climbing off this train, walking through a beautiful forest to a delicious place called Rainbow City. There's a second grader singing the song like this. Stepping up to Rainbow